Everybody, welcome to the Hyper Turbo Supercast. I'm Carl Sudella. With me today is
Justin Minnick
and Atticus Wyman.
And welcome to our premiere episode of the Video Game Break podcast.
That's right.
This is it. We are going to talk about video games on this podcast.
Totally.
Is that okay? Both
I
of you?
like them.
Total
and I play with
Slavadators.
them regularly.
Play with them, yeah. Play with them.
I play on them.
Yeah.
I play at them.
I play under them, and it's just uncomfortable.
Take this game.
So on this podcast, we are going to talk about video games, and we have different stages. We have the Hyper stage. We have the Turbo stage, which is a retro thing. We have the Super stage, which is the ending, kind of a Super Battle stage. And that's where we can pick two different...
I'm glad we go into the gym.
You don't need that. Two different video game things against each other. It's awesome. You'll find out. But before we get started, seeing as this is the first episode ever,
Number one.
let's talk about a little bit intro ourselves, and then how long we've been playing video games for, because people want to know that. So I'm Carl Sudella. I'll start. I feel like I'm at an AA meeting or something.
Hi, my name is
Hi, my name is Carl
Sudella.
Sudella. I play video games. You may know me from such web shows as Press Pause, Screen Tear, bunch of ones. Video Game Break recently. Video Game Breakfast. Video Game Breakfast was a short-lived show because I realized I don't like breakfast.
And you never utilized your milk when you were trying to eat and report on the news.
No, I just had a mouthful of dry cereal. But I do like lunch, so we could have done Video Game Lunch. But now it's just Video Game
You
Break.
could do a video game brunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A weekend edition. Yeah.
I have done a bunch of different web shows, and also we had a couple podcasts, and one of the ones I worked on was Play This Podcast with Tech Hive. And that was the one where I actually... we did it every week, and it felt really great. But that's the last one I've done, and that was a while ago. So I'm really excited to get back into the podcasting. People have been, clamoring for it.
Broadcast to
I get
the
so
internet.
many emails, like at least two.
Wait.
Do a podcast.
Oh, really? I thought for video game break or for a podcast.
Oh, just
For
like
both.
me. I should do a podcast at some point again. So we're doing one.
Yeah, we're doing it. So this is what you get, world. You asked for it.
Suckers. I don't know. And I'm 39 years young, so I've been playing video games for quite a long time, ever since I can remember, and starting with Atari.
Wait, like when you were like one?
Yep.
Really?
No, I don't. But I mean, like Atari, and even like some of those ones that were, like the kind of Pong type things.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like there's like variations
Sure,
of different
yeah.
stuff. So, anyways, forever, Justin.
Forever, Justin?
No, forever, comma. Now you go.
Your turn.
All right. My name is Justin Minnick. I'm a filmmaker here in Seattle. Video games. I've been playing video games probably... Oh, gosh. I have to think now. Because
Don't remember.
I'm not 39
So,
years
young.
old.
Young.
old. But I am very close. I'm
You're too old to podcast.
I'm too old to
Get
podcast.
outta here.
Oh, shut up.
I am.
What?
No one should trust any of us, really.
Yeah.
How old?
Yeah, wasn't that thing, don't trust anyone over 30?
Yeah, we all made it.
Oh, you can't trust this podcast.
Yeah, you
Or
can't
can
trust any of us. No, anyway, I'm 32 and a half. I've been playing video games probably since I was about 6 or 7. My brother actually bought me my first NES, and I just went fucking crazy for Mario Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers 1.
Super Mario. Well, yeah, I shouldn't say Mario Brothers.
Because Mario Brothers is not fun.
Super Mario Brothers specifically.
You played it, right? Mario Brothers?
Yeah, I played
Not
the.
fun.
Oh, yeah.
I played the original. And
You know what?
I think
It was one of my first games.
Oh.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
On the Nintendo?
No, on the Atari 2600.
I think
Wait, it came out for that first?
Yeah. That was the
Oh,
first time
right.
you ever
Yeah, yeah.
saw Mario and Luigi was Atari 2600 with those, Donkey Kong levels and the,
We're already
the-
spitting
yeah,
video
yeah,
game
yeah.
knowledge right at these guys
Yeah.
on the podcast right in the beginning.
I know.
didn't even know that.
That's because I'm Atticus Wyman, and I am the master
Oh, great
of all
segue.
things knowledge.
Let's segue right to
he's also incredibly humble.
And he
Oh,
does his
big time humble.
he does his research for the podcast. We're going to establish this at the very first episode of this podcast.
jeez.
I look at
Atticus
things.
does crazy research.
I did things that
He's also worked on our show Whiz Bang, which we're kind of in talks with.
talks.
Yeah.
It was taped, the pilot, whatever. We'll get
The
back to
sauce.
it. The point is, research guy here.
I don't
Mr.
know,
Atticus.
I feel we're setting me up for an unreasonable expectation.
Okay, never mind.
But you can trust like 73% of what I say,
It's good.
with the rest of it being really convincing.
So what else do you do with your life besides play video games?
I am a retail employee to pay the bills, and other than that, I pay the bills to play video games.
All right. You have a lot of time to do stuff for the show.
I do. I research, and then I try to be funny about it.
And
Well, you are funny.
I know this is not on topic for the show exactly, but you're also an avid tabletop gamer.
Oh, yeah,
Ooh.
I roll dice. I roll dice weekly.
I don't know how to do that because I want to talk about board games and
Sure.
role playing and all that stuff. So
You could
I think
do
I'll
like
have to
you
be
could
out.
do video game break analog edition.
Yeah, well, we came up with the idea that we could do a lot of different editions
Yeah,
today.
we can do
so
them all.
Sure.
I'm going to also set up something for potential future episodes right now and say that Justin might not do any research for any of the shows because he didn't already do research for this episode. Am I correct?
I did a little. I did a little. There are some things I do want to talk about. I'm not completely ignorant of the video game world as it is currently.
Oh, I know you know the landscape. I just meant for the specific episode of the things we might
Well, yeah,
discuss.
I tend to be a little lacking on the knowledge because I'm a very busy guy.
Oh,
He's
so
our maverick. He's
okay.
our maverick. He's
You know what,
just
no.
going to shoot from the hip, and you can trust about 73% of what he says.
Wait, that's really? So the lesson, kids, is don't do anything because you'll probably be fine at least up to 73%.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna not make fun of you about it. I was gonna be like,
okay.
this is who Justin is for the show.
That's what he's...
he's the guy that just comes in.
I'm- he's playing.
I'm the wild-eyed child of wonder. Wait a minute, what's the line from The Big Lebowski? It's like, you're like a child wandering into the middle of a movie.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Please don't wander into or out of the middle of the podcast.
and don't wander, in or out of the podcast.
I'm the Donnie of the podcast.
We're just doing the show, and at some point, Justin's just not here. By the way, that's a great segue. This podcast will be, maybe Justin will not be here, because how we're going to do it is, this is the I don't want to be called the gold edition.
Yeah.
We're showering you with gold.
Oh, come on. And that's edited.
Oh, come on. What, pee-pee jokes are not there?
Oh, I guess we can do it. All right.
Not just pee-pee jokes, sexy pee-pee jokes.
Yeah, pee-pee doesn't go with the word sexy at all.
No, that's why it's a joke.
Getting away from pee-pee sexy for a minute.
Please.
No, what I was going to say is that Justin might not be here. What we're going to do is, and Atticus as well, we're going to have guests on the show. We have a ton of them lined up already for video game developers, publishers, just people in the industry.
So if you've got a crazy aunt in an attic,
Well-
send us an email.
Okay, actually that would make a great podcast.
You know, who knows what she has to say about video games?
Yeah. Actually, the moms say the darndest things.
What?
Have you seen the article about Dark Souls 2?
No.
My mom's take on Dark Souls 2, hilarious. If you don't know what that is, go check it out. It's up on allofyourstuff.com.
Allofyourstuff.com.
It's up there. So I was going to say is we're going to do the guest interviews and stuff. So we're going to do those, but then sometimes Justin will be there, sometimes Atticus will be there, sometimes you both will be there with me with the guest, and sometimes it's just me and the guest.
We'll leg wrestle for it.
Okay. I'm bad at leg wrestling, but all right. Oh man, when I was a kid, I would wrestle my buddy Lester, and he did this one time. He put me in the leg scissors, and you know how it feels like you want to throw up. Oh damn it!
What?
Keep your nausea in check.
I know I have nausea right now. I can't say
God.
things like throw up. Anyways, he had me in the leg scissors, and he was like, "You quit, you give up, you give up." No, I was not going to give up. So I grabbed the clock radio thing and I hit him on the head with it. It was a great moment, and then we both just lied down, exhausted, and okay, truce.
Fighting from the streets.
But we are friends. Let's do Hyperstage.
Hyperstage!
That's funny. I was going to do an intro sound, but I don't think I need it now. Because it used some guttural thing. So the Hyperstage is basically things we're hyper excited about right now. That can be games we're playing, games we want to play that are coming out soon, or games that we just started. Because I know a lot of times people say, well, how can you talk about a game you just started playing it? That doesn't mean you're not excited about it and you're really into it.
Yeah.
So anything you just started playing or playing for a while or you want to come out sometime soon, you're really excited about it. Who wants to start?
I just got a PlayStation 3, and so I have been going through the gamut of old PlayStation 3 titles that I know would be awesome. And thus far, I've gotten super stoked on lots of games that they're giving me for free, because they do that.
Wait, Sony's giving you games for free?
Yeah, the PlayStation Plus. They're just like, here, take some games.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I mean, they're old, so download them and put them on your computer. So I started that Bioshock Infinite,
oh, right.
which is beautiful and really awesome ideas. I think the highlight so far has been a barbershop quartet singing the Beach Boys.
So beautiful.
It was amazing. And I was like walking past them and was like, I had to stop in game and turn around and watch these dudes.
There's
singing
another
a song.
moment you're going to love that comes up. Because if you're not familiar with the game, it's a first-person kind of shooter-y game with strong narrative, beautiful. But there's, in that particular one, the Infinite one, there's a lot of references to, like, pop culture.
Yeah.
But in a weird setting.
Yeah.
I think I'll just say spoiler alert for the rest of the podcast, because I'm not going to say that again and again. But as I'm playing it, like, you find the woman who tears time, and she opens it up to Paris, and it's got a marquee that says "La Revenge du Jedi." So, like,
Yeah.
she's looking at the Revenge of the Jedi on a marquee.
There's a song later that you'll hear that's just amazing. So that's not a spoiler, because I think enough people played Infinite by now.
I have never played any Bioshock.
Oh, wait. Remember you're going to leave? You're going to go in and out of the podcast? I think you should go out of the podcast.
Hey.
It's definitely got me amped to play more of it, because I love the, subtle geek references.
And now, did you play Bioshock 1?
I played the first one,
Okay.
and then I did not play the second.
You don't need to play the second one.
Okay.
The second one was just an action game by a different developer. I mean, it wasn't just an action game, but felt different.
Yeah.
First was, like, so immersive. You never played the Bioshock games.
I never played the Bioshock. Actually, what you were saying in terms of like pop culture references, I mean, so one of the things that's, I know this is maybe going a little off.
This is what you do. Do it.
I know. I'm the off guy. So the thing that's been confusing me for the longest time is this place in the neighborhood called Regent Bakery. Because it's like they're a bakery, but they're also kind of a Chinese restaurant.
Wait, here
yeah.
in town?
Uh-huh.
And
Seattle, Washington, that is.
yes, in Seattle, Washington.
Capitol Hill.
And their original location is actually in Redmond, and apparently they were made famous by the game Portal, because Portal actually references like the whole cake is a lie thing. It's like it's their cake.
Ooh.
So it's essentially the people who are
Now I gotta go.
Two knowledges.
Now I gotta go.
73%.
Yeah, we're nailing it
totally
so far.
makes sense.
There we go.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so that's where they get their notoriety from. Like people from the, was it Valve? Valve.
Yeah, Valve. Yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty much like eating there, and they just had such good cake they made it into the game.
That story came so around when I thought it was not going to be that.
I know. I was
direction.
like, oh, where are we
And
going?
there's this restaurant that I don't even think they should
What,
do.
you want some chow mein? Okay.
I know. That's awesome. Well, I want to also say and point out that you didn't get the PS4
No.
because it's obviously out. Everyone's getting, but like I've notoriously said everywhere, Xbox One and PS4, there's like one good game between them right now. So the software isn't there yet for it anyhow. So
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Well, and like I didn't say in my introduction, I started playing games when I got an Atari 2600 that got handed down to me because someone else got a Nintendo when I was probably, I don't know, in second grade. And that's when I played Super Mario Brothers, where you had to fight your little sister, and she was not...
Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers,
Yeah,
not Super.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Mario Brothers, yeah. But also, I have willfully stayed a generation behind of games because it's always cheaper. It's cheaper that way, and you get to actually read some good reviews on games before having to like sift through.
It's definitely cheaper, and it's interesting that I wonder if it's also a pattern that was set when you were a kid. I mean, like you just said, you always got the one before it, so now you're just like keeping with the tradition.
I'm a big fan of used merchandise. The thrift store was always a wealth of opportunity.
Yeah,
And so I got plenty of used Atari games and used Nintendo games.
each one a nickel.
Exactly. Like, I could pay a quarter for that.
Now the thing is, though, with digital, and this is a whole other discussion we can get into later, but with digital and used, when that finally comes to a head, then that might not be an option, right? Because there's so many games that are obviously downloadable content, downloadable titles themselves, indie games that are just downloadable. So there's a lot of stuff there where you might not be able to. You might have to stay with the current generation.
Oh, yeah.
that might be PC.
I
But
think I've paid for Fallout 3
Oh god.
on two different platforms at this point, and
Yeah.
have to now consider paying for it for a third because I want it.
You
Yeah.
want it back.
And I paid for the DLC, but that stuff doesn't transfer either. So
Right.
we're already in that era of
yeah.
Well, that kind of
find that hard copy.
leads me into into the stuff that I'm playing. Or
Yeah, and now it's
something
your
about.
turn. We can do that. Let's do that.
So, I mean,
Yeah, we should have to say hybrid before the person says something. We didn't do it with you. We'll have to redo it.
We need like a talking stick or something we pass around.
Hyper.
Hyper? Okay. Well, I mean, I don't think we're necessarily like completely there. Like, I mean, they're still releasing like Game of the Year editions. Like, I have like the Fallout 3 Game of the Year edition, so now I have all the expansions and all that stuff. And they did the same thing with Skyrim. Was it the Ultimate Edition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the one I got.
But the thing is, like, one of the games I'm really excited about that's coming out, actually, God, fairly shortly, next month, is Elder Scrolls Online.
Right, the beta's been out, and people have been reviewing
don't
it.
even get me started on the beta. Like, I couldn't even log into the beta. It's like, create a character. It's like, well, that's it. You're not going to be able to log on. It's like, great, thanks, Bethesda.
It's like the role-playing game. It's like tabletop, but then you just make your character, and that's it.
Now you got the sheet hug it.
Although that was a fun thing.
That is-
I mean, it is a fun thing.
Well, I mean, I went to PAX and that was pretty much all you got to do for it, and there was still like a 2-hour wait.
Yeah.
People who wanted
but-
to sit in and just make a character.
That's
all they
all?
got.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I hope that there's, actual playable gameplay come April
No.
14th. But
Yeah,
you
there
know.
may have been some.
And there has been. I mean, people are reviewing it. It's play. It can be played
Right.
at this point.
And yeah, and I've seen gameplay videos and stuff like that, and it looks interesting. Part of me has the reservations of like, oh my god, the mechanics look like a typical MMO, but part of me also really sees like the same sort of sensibilities that were put into Skyrim, put into this particular game. So ESO looks, I mean, it looks beautiful. Even if you can't run it at like all the fancy graphic stuff turned on, it still looks great. But what gets me is that I've been really tempted to do the pre-order. I think the pre-order is like $80 or something, and I think one of the things that they do, I think is a good incentive, is that like, oh, here's a race that you can only play that if you buy the special edition or the deluxe edition or the polished edition, whatever, some edition. But the thing is, though, I mean, that's like a direct download. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but like, if I don't like the game, like, it's not like I can sell it. If I spend $80 and it turns out that Bethesda like made like a crappy MMO, it's just like, well, I'm out $80.
Well, that's back to that topic of digital versus, it comes with the territory at that point, right?
I know, but it's just like, yeah, I want all these bells and whistles, but what if all these bells and whistles are for like a pile of crap,
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing from everybody who's played it that I know says that they do parts of Skyrim kind of gameplay well. Then you really realize it's an MMO. Mm-hmm. It's like does all some of those classic things that it shouldn't do because we want Skyrim. If it feels like Skyrim and it smells like Skyrim and it plays like Skyrim, it should be Skyrim, right? But then you go, oh, it's not. Mm-mm. And I think that when you do those kind of tropes,
Dragonborn.
Yeah,
You're one of 1.2 million people in the world at this moment. With your same.
Right,
Sure,
and there's
prowess.
quests, there are quests that are not going to feel like those epic quests in Skyrim. They're going to be more MMO based. So it sounds like what I'm hearing from the people who are reviewing it is it's a little of both, but that might hurt it in the long run.
I'm really the things that I generally I've only played one MMO ever, just because like after my experience of that, and just hearing people like go on ad nauseum about WoW, I'm just like, I can't do this. But the things that get me most about MMOs are there seems to be like a general like lack of like rich story. Like the MMO I have experience with is Final Fantasy 11.
Oh, interesting.
And the thing is, it's just like you kind of get like getting like morsels of story is just like the most rare thing. Everyone else is either just going around like level grinding or like crafting at the auction house. I'm just like, this is boring, It's like, if I'm going on an epic adventure, like I want to feel like I'm in an epic adventure, It's like, and I don't have to be the Dragonborn. It doesn't have to like pertain just to me, but like, I do want to be playing out a storyline.
Yeah, I think that's always been the most difficult thing for developers when MMOs. What I liked is Ultima Online was my favorite.
Oh, that was good.
And what was interesting about it, I think I talked about this before, is that it didn't have great story like a lot of the MMOs don't, but the story was in the player interactions. So there can be PvP kind of areas now, player versus player, in MMOs, but they're like a second area. You go over there when you want to do that. But Ultima Online, the whole world was just whatever it was. So if you want to kill someone, you could kill somebody. If you want to go fight an NPC or a monster or whatever, you could. So the landscape was very random and weird. And I feel like stories were similar to Skyrim stories for me. I could tell you an Ultima Online story right now of like how I found this weird backpack in the woods and it had this blue glowing armor in it because some guy probably died out there. And I put it on, then I went to this cave and, I saw this naked guy run by and he had 2 dragons with him. I mean, that's the kind of shit that was happening in Ultima Online.
So I remember I was talking to Ryan. He's a mutual friend of mine and Carlos's and Addie's. And he was telling me about Ultima Online because one of the things that apparently he had either experienced or heard about because he was into it for a while was that some of the NPCs, weren't just like these, like hard-coded things like, and here's your dialogue tree and blah, blah, blah. There were actual people that were playing some of these NPCs.
Oh, that's right.
And could go off and give you quests and sometimes special items and things like that. And I think that to reach, I think, a level of really enticing richness, and just kind of to have those like surprise random encounters in MMOs, I think that eventually you're going to have to get people who are essentially paid to play NPCs.
That's a very interesting idea.
That's what was going on in Ultima. They had moderators. And because it was a big PvP world, there were laws and things inside towns and stuff where you would have to call a moderator and you would complain about someone and they would have the ability to...
Well, sure.
But that's interesting.
But I'm not even talking about that because WoW has that. I'm talking about someone who's a part of the story.
I know, yeah.
Not someone who's like, hey, someone's like doing some like shady shit, call a mod.
Right. So I think having both is good, but to Justin's point, that's such an interesting idea that they could still do now, and Dark Souls does a little bit of. Like in Dark Souls, if you guys don't know about that game, you die a lot, and you kind of try to figure out the best way to go, and you have to kill these monsters, but it's pretty much you die all the time. So it's an always online game, though, too. It's connected. So when you play, you see the kind of the shadows of other players sometimes, and like they leave these little bloodstains on the ground, and if you go over and activate it, you can see how they died.
Oh, wow.
And then also they can leave you messages.
Nice.
Which is really cool.
Me.
Yeah, nice. That should be one if it isn't. But that's a little interactivity of the people that already played the game. But I like that idea of like an RPG, like a Skyrim, and like in fucking Whiterun, some of the people in there would be fucking people.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and mind you...
And it would make messy, too. It'd get really messy, probably.
It would get messy, and obviously it's like, I mean, I think that, if there were such a, like, position, gamers would just be clamoring, like, I want to be played to be an NPC, but it's like, I think that, obviously you're going to have, like, real good storytelling ability, really, some good some good concept of like game design, because like what if you do a quest and what if you want to modify that quest for like, oh yeah, go to that guy, he'll give you this quest. No, he won't. He'll give you a quest that's like this because he just changed the parameters, and so like this block of people got this instance of this quest, and then dude who's playing the NPC modifies this quest or makes a new one.
Oh, then there's all gaming the system, and that seems like it could get way out of control.
Well, that would immediately turn into like complaint forums of like, why did I not get that quest? They got that quest, and now they have a special item, so I went to that guy, and he didn't give me that quest.
You'd have to limit the tools that the guys or girls could make from that NPC, because as long as it's a certain amount of choices, they're all like kind of predetermined, like go here, get this gold thing, whatever. But if it's like they could have a lot of creative control over it, then it can get really crazy.
Well, I mean, I see your point. About people complaining. It's like, well, you guys should be able to get this quest. This is part of the game. But if it's something dynamic, then it's like, it's kind of luck of the draw, and I think it encourages people to explore. It's like, what's this person going to give me, or like, what kind of quest is this person going to put me on? It's like, it's basically it's less of like, I know exactly what to expect, and it's in like the strategy guide, and it's in the walkthrough, and I can totally get it. But it's a unique experience. Then it's like maybe you and a handful of people will get it, and then no one else will.
I love that. I think it's just policing it the right way. Like as long as you have the tools are done right. Developers, if you're listening,
it
take
would
this
make
idea because
it's pretty amazing.
It's an interesting. Okay, so you're excited about Elder Scrolls Online. You're excited about PlayStation 3 in general.
Just in
because
general.
you're going to have a lot of games to play on that. I'm excited about Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen. This came out a little while ago, so it's not like breaking news or anything. But Dragon's Dogma was a game I liked. Actually featured on Stuck on the Walls, a little show I did. And it's an action RPG. And I heavily action. And the fact that you can actually like jump. A lot of RPGs you can't jump. You know, you can jump. You can climb on things. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, interacting with the environment kind of
And when you
stuff
say
that goes on.
things, you also mean your enemies.
You can. There's a weird thing where you can pick up people and throw them, which is very video gamey and kind of breaks this whole, beautiful graphics that it has. But for some reason, you can pick up people, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But you can pick up everything. You can pick a lot of stuff up, and like Zelda smash boxes to find gold potions or whatever. So it's a good, very very good standard action RPG. It's got that Japanese feel to it in a way. I can't explain why. Maybe in the music or just the way they do things. It has a little bit of an arcadey feel. But the battle is just super fun to do. Like it's so many different combos, and you have a party that you have usually with you.
That I liked
And
about
so
it
those
as well.
people are always doing really great, like enchanting your weapons or doing their own magic spells or healing you. And they're all pretty smart. They've got some dumbness to them. But they do enough stuff that's really interesting. And they're all, the people who are in your party are called pawns. And essentially, a pawn is a being from another dimension. And why? We don't know. Because you're the Arisen, and they want to go see you. And you can
Fair enough.
enlist as many as you want. The pawns are interesting. You can, YC can enlist as many as you want. There's a bunch in the game, but that also uses online. So anytime you're walking around, and then not just a town, anywhere almost. Like I've been on the road somewhere, like into the woods, and I saw some dude walking by, and I can enlist him as a pawn. Now what's interesting is all those
Nice.
people walking around, a lot of them are people in the game who it's their pawn, and so when they log into the game, it goes to the server, like a pool of pawns, and so I'll get somebody else's pawn from another person. Does it crazy business?
And then as
Well,
that person
so-
plays with the pawn and they level up, your pawn is also leveling up.
My pawn is leveling up too.
So it's like when you're offline, it's like your pawn or whatever that you've enlisted
still
for a
doing
quest.
stuff, yeah.
So yeah, they're like an NPC. They're
Right, they're what we just talked about.
Well, no.
In a
no,
way.
It's not, well, but no. What it's doing is that it's making I guess NPCs more versatile and useful in that you can employ them, but just like a regular player character, like they're growing and they're evolving.
Right.
And, yeah.
I say it's kind of in the similar way in the fact that it's an NPC coming from another player.
Sure.
They're not controlling them directly, but they're kind of controlling what they have and their inventory and the skills they've picked. But what's interesting is that most of the ones I find that are other players' pawns, they're really expensive to get. And I don't know what the whole behind that is, but there's these certain types of points you can spend to get those pawns, and I've seen like 1,000,000 or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well then what? Level 99 million, whatever. And I'm like, well, I'll never be able to enlist him. So.
Right.
Anyways, long story short, it's fun, super, super great, and Dark Arisen is the expansion. I added an extra dungeon and a bunch of other stuff, and the HD texture map was added, so it's even more
So
beautiful.
now it's even prettier.
Yeah.
So is this a PC, Mac, console?
I'm playing on the 360. It's PS3 360.
Okay.
I don't think it's PC.
It looks really nice.
It is
and,
very
and yeah,
fancy.
it was something that had completely escaped my
escaped a lot of people's
until
radar.
you
Yeah.
mentioned it, and then I went and watched some gameplay videos, and
Well-
fighting an ogre and getting able to climb up on its back and stab it in the back of its
That's what I was
neck
gonna
and,
mention.
jump off of it. It's that's an interactive thing, and jumping up a wall.
The interactive thing, real quick to his point, they have a Shadow of the Colossus kind of moment in it. Almost any big enemy, like a really big monster, you can climb on.
That's cool.
And then continually to hit them. In the very beginning of this game, you're fighting a big monster, essentially. Not the very beginning, your first boss. And I grabbed on the guy's leg and was just hitting him. I jumped off, did a backflip, jumped back on his head. I think I did a super move and his head got cut off. It was the most fun I've had, like an action RPG.
Yeah.
So I think that it's got totally, under the radar for people. But I think one of the reasons is the pawn thing is weird. Mm-hmm. And I feel like people are like, well, I'm not used to that in an RPG. And it just kind of threw some people off, I think, at the beginning, because they like either if you're going to have a party of people, then you've selected them or you found them and they're an NPC, But the continually switching out of people is kind of annoying and weird at times, because sometimes I'll have a level 10 or 15 person. We get to somewhere farther on, and there's a higher level pawn. I'm like, well, I've grown fond of this one, but that one's higher level.
Yeah, they're tougher.
Like, now I'm going to take all your stuff and give it to that.
Yeah, and then that lady goes, I hope we meet again. I say lady because I've only been hiring ladies.
Really?
I'm Charlie's Angels right now.
Battle harem.
It is. It's my guy and 3 ladies. Charlie's Angels.
That's pretty fun.
It's pretty fun.
So I a couple of questions that kind of came to mind. So like, with pawns, I mean, like, I'm just kind of wondering, like, are all of them generally useful, or is there occasionally like, the farmer with an IQ of 50 that has like a rake?
No, that'd be funny though.
It's like, I've come to hoe the fields of your soul.
Guys, I found some hay bales over here. This is good, right?
It's good eating, for the horses. We
We
don't have horses.
Well, there's horses.
It's still good eating.
That's a great segue though, because they do. This is very interesting. I'll have 2 more points and then we'll leave this. One is they go find stuff for you, right? Which is really cool. Like, so especially if they kind of mimic what you do. So I'll smash a huge barrel or something like that, and then they'll go running around smashing things. I'm like, good girls, you got it. Good women, ladies. I don't want to be sexist.
Empowered
female warriors. Thank you.
Yeah.
But no, they go and like,
what we mean.
and every once in a while I'm not even doing anything, and I just hear like a vase break, and I'm like, she's like, I found something. And I'm like, that's awesome. I love it. And also when I'm running, you can run out of breath with stamina. And for some reason, I run all the time to try to get to the next place. And one of the ladies comes up to me and she's like, are you all right, master? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just out of breath. It's okay.
Just need a moment.
I just need a
But
the fact that she's there, it's so, like, consoling.
She cares.
Well, now that this imitation kind of has me thinking about what you were saying, like how you can throw people.
Right, that's the last thing I was going to say.
Well, to lead into that, because I was thinking, like, it's like, why would you use that? And I mean, I could definitely see that as a fighting move, but especially if you're going to start a bar fight. But the thing is, if they're copying what you're doing, then they might not restrain themselves and be like, oh no, master, we must not do this. It'd be like, bar fight, everybody, bar fight.
That'd be funny if I threw a person and then they started throwing people.
Like breaking
that
bottles.
Would be amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, I should try that today.
Get it on
crap.
Twitch.
The last thing I was going to say, besides throwing people, I don't know why they built that in. I think they did it for the pawns because you can pick them up and move them to a certain location if they get stuck or something. I feel like because they're pretty smart, but then they get really dumb all of a sudden. So,
always happens.
There's commands, for them.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, we can't fight this guy right now. And they're like, well, I got a master. And they run off. And I'm like, no, come back. And they're not listening to me, so.
No. I'm already thinking, like, we pick them up and throw them onto the enemies that they can
I know,
climb on.
right?
And, like,
I think
chuck them onto the back of the Minotaur.
Fastball special.
That would be
Everybody
amazing.
wants to fastball special.
I feel like there's some sort
Everybody
of.
wants to fastball special. Fastball special.
I think there's a fall down animation that probably happens first.
Spice small checker.
And then they can grab hold of the monster. The last thing I'll say, the following thing's weird. I'm loving this game, by the way. The new expansion's great. The HD texture map thing makes it really, really not a PS4 game or anything like that. But it's good. It's nice.
It looks pretty.
The last thing I was going to say is there's a funny little thing that happened yesterday. There's these 2 little rabbits. And I'm sure you can cut them up and get rabbit food, right? That's what they're there for, to be pretty. But then if you want
you
to
don't
cut
get rabbit food from rabbits.
Right, hold on.
Unless the rabbits are cannibals.
Hold on. So they were by a fire. I know this is starting bad. It was a campfire. It wasn't mine or anything. But anyways, a campfire. And so I'm like, and I wanted to get closer to them and just look at their animation because they look cute. They're little rabbits.
Cute little rabbits.
There's 2 little rabbits. So I went down and looked at them. And he got startled by me. I guess that's an NPC thing to do.
That would happen.
So I ran away and jumped into the fire and became rabbit food.
Oh, was it tasty?
Oh, I didn't eat it yet. It's in my backpack.
Okay.
But
Mr. Flood.
I know. I was like, no, and I ran to go save him, or not save him, but I ran in his direction, and the other ones got scared of me, and also became rabbit leg.
Shit,
That's delicious.
He made Peter commit suicide. Run!
And And then that person died.
Yeah.
Oh, that rabbit died.
Yes.
Here's my rabbit story. Let's go.
Peter Rabbit died. Thanks, Carlos.
Let's go to Turbo Stage. So I picked Turbo because TurboGrafx,
Yeah.
which is later in this episode, is an old school retro. So Turbo Retro Stage. So what this is going to be is a retro question each episode that we do this. Retro game question. Today's retro game question is most difficult game you remember playing back in the day. And did you eventually beat it? Yes or nay? Who wants to start?
Everyone's pointing at me.
All right, Justin's
all right.
going.
Well,
Wait.
I thought this was what
Turbo!
you were doing.
Turbo! I like that idea.
Turbo.
Turbo!
It's almost like we had to scare the person into saying something.
Yeah, no pressure to talk. On
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Turbo!
Right, dead air. So without a doubt, I think it would have to be A Boy and His Blob.
Oh,
Because-
NES, right?
Yeah, for the NES, I hated that game, and I tried playing. Okay, so obviously I wasn't able to beat it because pretty much, you start the game and you get to a point where like you're at that first subterranean level, and it just I could just never figure out how to get across like those worms that bounce in the air.
It's been a while.
I know. So this is a game where you're a boy. There's a blob. You feed him
Right.
jelly beans,
Yes, you
and
feed
it
him
provides him special powers.
Well,
for
yeah,
an amount of
the
time.
jelly beans. For those of you who don't know, or are too damn young and don't know your
Which is
your,
probably
your
a
video
lot
game
of people.
culture.
I'm shaking my
Yeah.
fist.
Yeah,
Can we call this the over 30s podcast? Or 30 something?
yeah. Let's just depress ourselves.
Yeah. Well,
It's just real. It's just
real
real.
life.
Yeah.
Son.
some would call it experience.
Real talk. So yeah, I remember playing it, and you feed these jelly beans to this blob, who's I guess is from outer space, is the backstory, and he shapeshifts depending
Spoilers.
on the what spoilers? It came out in the
Just go.
80s.
Just
Shut
go.
up.
Just go. Justin stops at every point where it could be.
Yeah, to try to verbally defend
do that.
myself unsuccessfully.
No defense.
All right, no defense. Yeah,
Just let me get in my cheap shots.
just supple and pink and taking it.
And edit. Although I have a feeling by the end of the podcast, all the times I say and edit will not be edited.
They're gonna be in there.
Anyway, so you would give jelly beans, and that would allow you to get around in the world or get around obstacles. And I could never figure it out. I'm like, all right, hole, ladder, and then it would turn into, or I forget, there were some things that turned into. I'm like, well, what the hell do I do with that?
So you didn't know how to beat a stage is why you couldn't beat it.
Well, the thing is, I don't even know if there were specific levels or if it just kind of kept going. So yeah, so it's like I could never figure it out.
It was kind of open world.
It was a little
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing,
Proto open world.
But the thing is, though, it's like the music just gets super annoying after a while because it's like the same thing that's repeating over and over again. It's like
And for those of you who
know,
played it, that's a
yeah, and
perfect
that's-
representation of
and
it.
it just
I'm sure
kinda-
you're humming it to yourself now.
yeah, just with rage because I years later, this is when I was when I moved from Chicago to Seattle and blah blah blah. But I every once in a while I'm just kind of like, I wonder what ROMs are out there, and so I got this emulator and I was like, oh, Boy and His Blob, yeah, let's play that again. Let's give that another try. It's like I'm older, I'm more experienced.
You would
my
think.
my frontal lobe is more developed and connected to the rest of my brain. Let's check this out. And no, it was just the same frustration all over again.
Well, some might say that we are past our prime for some of those types of
jeez.
games.
Yeah,
I've
so
heard that
games,
recently.
So depressing. Yeah, but playing games is supposed to actually improve certain brain function.
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
things.
Well, let's not go there. It's a
Certain
Debbie
things.
Downer. But
Yeah,
I will
yeah.
say,
None of us are.
Thanks
brain-
for pointing
brain
out the
doctors.
entropy, Carlos.
listen, I got my sciaticas acting up. So I will say though, so that the game itself wasn't really difficult. It was just that stage or near the ending. Was it near the ending? You don't even know.
No, there was no way it was near the ending.
Okay.
This was like
So-
in the beginning, and I'm just kind of like, all right, how do I get past that thing? I don't know. Let's try walking. Nope, die.
What's interesting is that was back in the day when there wasn't the Game Facts.
Exactly.
So
Right.
you had to get Nintendo Power and hope that it was in the back of that magazine, and if it wasn't, then
Right.
You're asking your buddy.
And
Or there was the Nintendo call line that was
Well-
like $7 with 99 cents a minute.
Did you ever call it?
No.
that's it. So
I did not have my parents' permission.
Yeah, no.
I never called it. Oh, well, that's the other thing. Is like you have a limited number of jelly beans, so it's just like, you know, unless you have the instructions, which I never did. Like
I remember
it was-
that being my
yeah.
issue was I'd play and
I
then
gotta
I'd be
experiment.
have no jelly beans anymore. Well, what do you do?
I kind of
So-
want jelly beans now.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
jelly
If you
beans?
say-
I brought gummy bears, but they're not.
oh.
Like jelly bellies.
If you say jelly beans enough, I think you just start wanting them.
Jelly beans, jelly beans, jelly beans, jelly
Atticus,
beans.
what was your hardest game then that you played and didn't beat? Or did you beat?
Oh, I definitely never beat it. I never beat the first level boss of the Total Recall video game.
There's a game.
Whoa.
Exactly. I bought it for my birthday. I remember I was at a flea market and there was like a
Nintendo?
table. It was on the Nintendo Entertainment System. And there was like a huge table, and I was like, "That looks great, Total Recall." I think I must have seen it, or
By the way,
just-
they-
I just loved Arnold Schwarzenegger.
They
and I
sold
wanted
so
to
many
share.
games in that time period of the
Yeah.
movie licenses because kids said that exact same
Exactly,
thing.
it worked
Oh,
on
yeah.
me.
It was,
Oh,
it was
okay.
the same thing with ET and Atari. It's like ET, I love ET. Like what? What am I doing? I don't understand this game. It's stupid.
So the first level, you're like running away from dudes with guns. It's not terribly difficult, but the boss is the scene where it's like, what is it, Sharon Stone, and she's your wife, and she like suddenly goes, "I gotta kill you,"
Oh, yeah.
and then she's jumping around in her hot pink tights and with a gun, and you've got punching, and she just destroyed me every time. And if she didn't destroy me, there's like a timer, and then a dude comes in the room.
Oh, I
and
remember
just
that. I
blasts the whole
remember
room.
that.
And-
I remember that bullshit.
I never
that
once.
timer was.
I never once
Fuck
beat that,
game.
level,
Dude.
I would get to it and try, just fail.
No,
fail,
you
fail,
just
fail.
brought back a childhood memory. I remember that fucking guy with the timer coming in. He was
Yep.
like, you know what? If you haven't beat her by now, I'm just going to come and kill you.
Yep.
And you can't, like, dodge his bullets.
Nope.
You just fucking die.
You're just done.
That's
Yeah.
like it's like the most cruel, you know, Darwinian evolution in like in video game playing. It sounds like.
And I'm so over and so happy that time limit stuff is pretty much gone.
pretty much gone. In doing my research, I went and watched somebody's gameplay video of Total Recall because I was like, was this as difficult or was I just stupid?
Yeah.
Was it one of those things where if I'd had a book, I'm just like, oh, all I need to do is go to the corner and hit a switch and I avoid the fight entirely?
Yeah, that guy dies because he drops through a trap door and you never saw that guy.
No, just incredibly difficult. And the next level is awesome looking, just as hard.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I would have died there just as often and never gotten past the second level.
Now, you didn't beat it. Did you go and watch the ending of it? Because I was
No,
going to
I'm
ask
going
that
to do
for
that
everybody.
next.
So a lot of people right now, especially our age, let's say, who have played games in the olden days and didn't beat some, are going on YouTube and going on different places, Twitch and stuff, to watch people beat the game or see how they beat it, the endings. Now, I don't prescribe to really watching gameplay a lot, but for this kind of reason, I do. Because this is great.
Yeah.
You know, because we didn't get to experience that ending, which again,
I'm really
is
bad
what
at
we were
beating
working
games.
for. You're a bit bad at games in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've beat very few games, especially on Nintendo. I
Yeah.
think like maybe one or two.
Well, Nintendo was really hard.
So hard.
There were some. There
You
were
should
some
go back and
definitely.
watch Points Bob.
I should, and I will probably like end up just like, you know, smacking my head against the wall.
I want to watch a
because
Boy
it's
is
probably
Blob like
something stupid.
speed runs.
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
Because that's the other really impressive thing is go and watch those games you could never play and watch someone beat them in like 7 minutes.
No, yeah, that's depressing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. That's just
I love it.
Oh, you
It's
do?
impressive. It's like, oh man, look at them. They just know. Well, even just watching the dude today play Total Recall, I was reminded that if you'd figured out the pattern of almost any Nintendo game, all you had to do is walk to that point on the screen, hit the button a certain number of times, walk to this point on the screen.
Right.
And I never was that analytical. I just wanted to go. I was hitting forward as often as I could.
Yeah, yeah.
I never was like, oh, if I just stand right here, I can kill every one of them. That was not my style.
Well, my game is Ghosts and Goblins,
Damn. That one's hard.
which is fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's been on other people's lists, I'm sure. Nintendo. It was actually in the arcade, I think. There was
Was it?
Gals and Ghosts, I think, was with the arcade.
Uh-huh. So you had one too.
Yeah, you're basically a little knight that you go to try to save the princess, and the devil took her because you know that happens. And then you've got to go through all these stages. And the very beginning, if you remember, if you played it, you have this huge like map, and you're at the very beginning. You can see this huge castle going to the right, and there's all these stages in between. And
That
you're
was
just
the great thing about that game was let's give you an idea of the scope
Yeah, it
of
showed
what you're
you.
about to
Yeah.
try to do.
like you get past the first stage, and pretty much a first boss, early on, which is even tough in the very beginning. And then they show you the map again. They're like, guess what? You got all that to go, sucker.
Uh-huh.
So it's fucking difficult and insane because basically you have your armor on. If you get hit, your armor comes off and you're in your underwear.
Mm-hmm.
You have boxers with little hearts on them. And then you get hit one more time and you're dead.
That's it.
Wait. So one hit, you're naked?
Yep.
One hit, you're naked. The second hit, you're dead.
Wow.
Yep.
And you can shoot things and you get different power-ups like,
Better armor and stuff, I think. But I think it's
there is
almost
better
always,
armor later, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's almost always like one hit. And
It's
the armor's
basically one
gone.
or two hits, yeah, and you're gone. And so that game is very much about not going just pushing forward, is being smart and being, figuring it out. I mean, the enemies do respawn, but if you know the patterns, if you know when to duck, you know when to jump, there's platforming. It just pissed me the fuck off. I stopped that game quick and watched the ending because you have to. So I think PSA, if you played games and you never beat them, use those gameplay videos to watch the endings.
Yeah, get that instant gratification.
Yeah, it's okay now.
That's what the internet's for.
It's either gratification or just like that exasperation of like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, which would be depressing. Let's go to the final stage.
Super Battle.
Stage.
Versus stuff.
So this is a super battle, the super battle stage. We're still coming up with a name, but I think it's the super battle stage. And where we pit two video game things of any type or variety against each other, and we pick who should win, and then we name a winner.
A button versus B button.
Wow.
Ooh, I go B.
I'm going A.
I gotta go A too.
A wins! The first super battle is the A button. It doesn't make any sense. Low
Just
veterans.
always like going backwards.
So, okay, it's really simple. It's a childhood battle that I had with my friends, and probably was the only one on one of the sides because no one else had one. It is the Sega Genesis 16-bit system versus the TurboGrafx 16, which is kind of a lie because it's two 8-bit processors. So it's 8 plus 8. Let's just call it 16-bit.
We'll just call it that.
So, Sega Genesis versus TurboGrafx. I could go on extensively, so I will not go first. Someone else.
I did. This is another thing where I delved and did some research.
He's the research guy.
To be fair,
And
Justin shoots from the hip.
And
That's better. Just accept
and
it.
I
All
like
right.
Carlos. It's totally like how many friends did you have that had the system, and so how familiar were you with it? Because I never had a Sega, I never had a TurboGrafx, but I had friends who had both. But I was better friends with the guy who had the Sega.
Yeah. Okay.
So I played lots of Sega. Road Rash was my jam. I raced the shit out of those motorcycles.
That's where you can punch people too, right?
Yeah, and you would like get chains and stuff and like really get vicious. And so Sega is like the winner for me, but then it's also like when you look at releases, there were like 90 something releases for the TurboGrafx and like over 200 for the Sega Genesis in America.
They had the developers, yeah.
well, now is that just Genesis, or are we talking about Sega CD? Because you could plug your Genesis into the Sega CD.
I think we're just doing Genesis.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, core systems here.
Core system.
Because the TurboGrafx was the first one with a disc.
Right.
It was like, and I think it was the first CD-ROM game.
Sure was. It's part of my highlight list. Yeah.
But, so it really is good looking. I went and watched some gameplay, and I was like, that is impressive for the era. And I remember reading the Bonk advertisement comic books in every one of the comics I got in like that era.
Yeah.
There was like the one page of Bonk getting eaten, and then the lady's gone, and he busts out, and it's like, get a TurboGrafx. And then, man, I
Did
wanted
they do
one.
that at the end too? Somehow,
Well,
like,
in my head
a
it
little
did.
old timey guy comes out and also get a TurboGrafx, which is not an old timey voice, but
You know what it does sound close to is the voice you used to do for when you were impersonating Teen Girl Squad.
corn and corn alone day.
Yeah.
Can't do very good
I
stuff.
made a possum.
I made a possum.
You got old.
By the way, so did Homestar Runner. You mentioned that now. People are like, huh?
Well, the thing is, like, people were usually kind of like that way, and I'm just like, because I would like watch it religiously, like every Monday when a new Speed Mail would come out, and I'd be like, and they'd be like, I haven't been on that site in forever. I'm like, no, go watch it. They're still putting that stuff up. Now it's been like over 3 years since they've updated it. And
Good news for our listeners who might be younger. I'm just guessing. Go to homestarrunner.com. You have a wealth of animation at your fingertips to watch.
And you can tell
because
those
you've never
jokes.
seen any of them.
Yeah, tell those jokes to your friends.
Oh, yeah.
None of them will have heard them.
Yeah.
You
I
can
made
start
a
doing the
possum.
voices.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Sure. Can you see your card gauge?
Wrong bed will help you out.
Someone said they'd take me to lunch, but I don't see anyone taking me to fish fillet.
Oh, I ate a pony.
You'll get those if you go to the website. Free advertisement because they're not doing anything anymore. Okay, so yours is for Genesis because basically your friend had the Genesis.
Yeah, I played way more Genesis. I mean, Sonic was great.
And they had more games. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Because the developer support was.
Sonic was great. Streets of Rage is.
It's great. There's a lot. I'm not going to argue that the Genesis didn't have great games because it did. His vote is for Genesis. Justin.
So my vote is also for Genesis. And
I didn't figure out how the math works here yet.
listeners, if you could see the look on Carlos's face when I said that.
He's
I
so
think,
sad.
I think it's pretty much.
Well, okay, so for Atticus, it was like, he knew people who had a Genesis and was better friends with them. For me, it was kind of like it was Nintendo breaking my heart as a kid because like I was so into Mario and it was just like Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario 2, Super Mario 3, and so I just thought I was just gonna keep on going. So I'm like Super Mario 4, let's just keep doing lots of Marios. And so when Super Mario World came out on the SNES,
Which is a great game, by the way.
Yeah, and
True.
it's like I feel, which is it's unfortunate that I missed out on the SNES as well, but I felt betrayed. I'm like, oh, we're going to make you buy a new system to play Mario 4. So I felt betrayed, and in my heartbreak, I turned to Sega Genesis.
That
Right.
sounds so Justin-y.
I know,
Yeah.
because it's not like the system had been out for 10 years at that point,
I
which
know.
it had.
Yeah, it was on its like not deathbed.
Well, no,
but
I know,
like,
but I know, but at the time, it's like being a kid and being like naive about these things. I was just kind of like, oh, nuts! I'm going over and doing this thing.
I also think it does sound like you though today in a way.
Oh,
Well,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? But
Really?
no, it's just it's kind of a formative thing. It's almost like you decided you're going to be like, no, you know what? No, you can't do that.
Well, but they didn't really do anything. I said no. I said
Okay.
the no.
We're not saying
We're gonna have to have a talk later because, this doesn't. I don't think I do that. But anyway, so yeah,
Next week on the Super Hyper Turtle podcast, Justin's great realization.
which is said.
yeah,
wrong, but
it's going to be a lot of
I said it wrong.
therapy
We can
and
edit that.
catharsis,
Edit.
and crying, and
We're not
yeah.
editing
All right.
All right, so
Anyway.
you were sad that they
So-
betrayed you.
Well, yeah, I felt as a child. I don't feel that way now. As a child, I felt betrayed, but I kind of was like befriending people in high school who still had their SNES systems, and there were all these cool games. I mean, that's how I found out about Final Fantasy 3 and and like the the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so there are all these good games that I missed out on. But anyway, I did like my Genesis. What did I play? I played a lot of the Sonic games. I thought they were good. I don't think I've ever completed any of them. But like that's the thing. It's like I never really owned a lot of games for my Genesis. This was like during the age when Blockbuster still existed.
Rentals.
And I would rent video games, and I remember playing a lot of Sonic games. Pretty much, just cool side scrollers. Like I think I played the X-Men game, which was kind of cool.
Aladdin
Oh yeah,
on,
Aladdin.
on the Genesis was
Yep.
great.
Not really.
Even that Mickey Mouse game felt like cool because the graphics were like such an upgrade. I feel like.
Oh, and what was it? Oh, Out of This World actually looked interesting. It was like this really really early like 3D game.
That was
And-
PC first. That was beautiful.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of This World looked really great, and it was because you're like in this alien prison, and you got to figure out like why am I here? I got to get out, and it's all sorts of weird and awesome.
So you owned a Genesis then?
I
Yeah.
owned a Genesis. And so that's pretty much what I played until gosh, what did I get after that? I think I went straight from that to I don't think I had another system till like the N64.
Oh, so you went back to Nintendo? I was wondering.
I went back.
It's
to
been enough years.
Well, the thing is that I went back to Nintendo, but eventually I got seduced by the PlayStation 1 because there was just
Well, yeah.
Well,
big
who wouldn't?
library,
Yeah, who
cheap
wouldn't?
games.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's going too far ahead.
So you are Genesis.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be the lone TurboGrafx, which is now I have to say a bunch of things because I've lost.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I felt when I saw the question. I was like, no one's going to vote. For
No one's going to vote, which
you,
is why
you do a poll online, you get like 73%.
Yeah. Well, here I'm gonna do the the voice for all the others, TurboGrafx lovers. Well, actually, I remember when I was a kid, I would draw these little cartoons of me and my cousin called TNC, Todd and Carlos. And in the cartoon comic strip I wrote, I had this whole battle, Genesis for TurboGrafx. Super nerdy, making comics about video games. And
But your own video game arguments. Yeah.
yeah, my own argument, yeah. And I opened up the newspaper in the morning, and it said TurboGrafx 16 beats Genesis. That's it. Not like how or numbers
Just
or anything.
does.
It just does. So in
And
the past,
forevermore.
it already did beat it, in my little comic. But here's what it is. To your point, it was the first system that had a CD-ROM, which basically, TurboGrafx started out as a PC Engine in Japan. Mm-hmm. PC Engine came out pretty much in the same time as Nintendo, a little after it. So it was going head-to-head with Nintendo, but it was doing better because the graphics were better than Nintendo. So
Oh, yeah.
it was 8-bit, but they different things with the colors, and they had a separate processing chip or whatever. And so it was better than Nintendo graphic-wise. So it did really well in Japan. But the problem is that when they finally ported it over here, the generation, when they gave it to us, it was in between Nintendo and Genesis. Mm-hmm. So Nintendo was pretty much on the way out, and Genesis was taking over because that was a full 16-bit system. So it didn't have the processing power, which is already heard out of the gate, because it didn't come out at the right time.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with it. So it was a good system in its own right. It had a lot more releases in Japan because it was a huge Japanese system as the PC Engine, and also the Mega Engine, which they made another version. But when we got it, we got the Americanized version. I don't think the console looked good at all, really.
I think it was the smallest console ever built.
It was pretty teeny, but then they had they had a lot of unnecessary things, like attachments.
Lots of plugins.
Yeah, if you look at the Japanese version, it's teeny, and there was no reason. Anyways, interesting side story. The CD-ROM that did come with it, that you had to buy separately, it was like way expensive.
Yeah.
So that was another barrier to entry. No one's going to buy like $300 separately just to get like
Right.
the CD-ROM.
They were essentially doing the same thing that Sega was doing, or like.
Right,
They
but
did
it was
before.
Yeah, they did before.
Oh, I see.
Oh yeah, this
Sega
is
followed
this is the
suit.
first
Well,
CD-ROM.
right. Well, no, I'm not saying that. No, I wasn't saying that they followed.
Oh, yes.
followed them. I was just saying that they
That
were
it was an
doing the
add-on.
same
Yeah.
sort of
And
thing.
so but I think they did it in a much it was much more integrated way. Like, you know what I mean? Like those games weren't just be like, oh, let's just make, a developer didn't make like, oh, let's just make it kind of better. It was like, it's a CD game now.
Yeah.
There's going to be full motion. They can do full motion video, and they did, but like the full motion animation, like real audio. The first time I heard like people saying things, like fucking blew my mind.
Pretty cool.
Right? So the high technology value, the fact that it was from Japan, I was infatuated with Japanese because that's what brought us video games, people. I know right now their market is dying or whatever, but that's what started it. So infatuated with Japanese, infatuated with the weird games, and Bonk, like you mentioned earlier, JJ and Jeff, weird ass games TurboGrafx had because there was generally Japanese games.
They were
And-
also doing lots of clones as well. Like I saw a video today that was literally it looked exactly like Zelda 2, only
Newtopia.
really great. Exactly,
Newtopia.
Newtopia.
I played it. It's great.
It's straight up a clone.
Yeah, yeah.
The like no holding things over your head, like
Yeah.
all of the same animations, but it looked good.
Newtopia was so beautiful because, again, that was the era where it was graphics still. The whole thing about like, when graphics started slightly getting better, you just noticed them a lot. You know, that's why when they would in old magazines, they would be like graphics number for it. Like they would rate it on its graphics.
Because it mattered.
It really mattered. So Newtopia just looked beautiful because it had like lighting and stuff. Anyways.
Yeah.
So I played a lot of those games, and also had the Turbo Tap, which allowed you to do 4 players.
Ooh.
And Bomberman was one of the. It came out for that first.
Yep. That's
Bomberman, everybody knows, is a very fun multiplayer game. Super Nintendo is where people, I think, most played it, but it originated.
Super Bomberman was good.
It originated on TurboGrafx, and I would have like parties with my friends, and they'd be like, "What is this weird system you have that no one has?" But it has Bomberman, and that's what we play. So it's a special place in my heart, and it loses the Super Battle, like I thought it might.
Wah, 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 wah.
Do we have a sound effect?
I just made one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we go, we were just talking about news, and we might want to stick that at the end of the episode real quick. If there's like one big news item that happens in the world of video games, and I think the one that we're all talking about, it makes me kind of sick to my stomach, in a way.
I thought we were not talking about that.
Yeah.
Oh, are we not talking about it?
Your stomach.
You said you had
Oh,
nausea.
I do have nausea. This is going to be... Why am I listening to this podcast with these old men? All they talk about is their nausea and their pee-pee and the...
And
was
the
that?
and gallstones.
The gallstones. What else did we say earlier?
I got a goiter.
I had my sciatica. Anyways, Oculus Rift purchased by Facebook, $2 billion.
Big fat money.
Thoughts, Justin?
Because I was actually going to for Atticus on this one. But,
Thoughts, Atticus?
all right, yeah.
Nope, you're gone. Atticus.
You're over.
Hyper, turbo, super.
I'm kind of excited. I totally get the backlash. Anyone who goes to Kickstarter and says, "Hey guys, I'd really like some money to help make this amazing product. Give it to me." I think that at that point you have your investors, and that to then continue shopping around seems like in lots of ways
Morally wrong.
It's morally wrong and should be a breach of contract where these people gave you money, they're expecting a product, and now you have taken somebody else's money on a much larger scale, and so that they would feel like their ownership of that is now negated. Totally makes sense to me.
To clarify, the backers will still get the product,
Yes.
but so that, they'll still get an actual thing. But it is weird mixture of like, we're gonna get money from over here as well, just so you know.
Yeah.
So
But then the guy has said, it's going to enable us to release it like 6 months to a year earlier with half as many bugs as we were planning on being acceptable for a release thing. Those seem like valid reasons to take somebody else's money.
But it depends on what they're going to do with the product, Like,
Yeah.
I think it's similar to the motion control stuff. It's a potential, consumer type product that can push us into this direction we've been trying to go since forever, the 70s really, of this virtual reality. But when you have such a big, huge social media company owning like the first player in it, like video games is a lot of times about who gets there first.
I think it has a lot to do with PlayStation 4 because they have announced and released specs for their visor that's coming out.
Right.
And so Oculus isn't the only game or the only name in the game any longer, and there are definitely some other smaller companies doing VR goggle stuff. But when you have someone with as much clout and money as Sony going into the field, I can see where someone at Oculus would go, we need some mega bank to try to even compete with what they're doing.
I totally get it, but it just seems weird that it wouldn't be like a Microsoft or somebody, you know what I mean, like, or Nintendo or anybody else.
It's an odd name.
Yeah, because you can go, because I get that makes sense. If Sony shows it off and you're like, oh, maybe we should do this.
Yeah.
But Facebook.
Well, yeah, because that's something that has been just that was kind of weird to me too. Because like when Facebook bought Instagram, it's like, okay, I get it. That's another social media thing. You're buying another social media thing. With Oculus Rift, it's just, it just seems so far like left field from from what Facebook is involved in. But then again, if they're thinking like, basically it just seems like, it's just some sort of like extra profit investment for them. Cause like,
Ew.
because they're probably seeing like, oh, VR is actually becoming like an actual thing that people want now.
Right.
When we're gonna go with Oculus because it looks awesome and it's popular. And so to me, it's just like, it's just like, oh, well, we want more money. And, I guess as a company, like, I get that. It's just weird to me that these tech companies start off and then like, this is what we do. And we're going to do this one thing. And then they just end up trying to do everything. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's
Amazon.com and getting into video games.
Yep.
Yeah, Amazon's doing like almost pretty much everything. They're making their own like filmed content. But
Facebook's still even different than Amazon. You know what I mean?
Well, right, no, but they
like,
are. But to me, this is like the first step of like Facebook becoming like an Amazon or like a Google, or like something like that. Although I really can't argue too much with Google because they do have a lot of cool science projects going on.
I think the something to consider is that we know about a few of the things that Facebook has acquired. Like what they just spent a whole bunch of money on some app that immediately tanked. I don't remember what it was.
Oh yeah.
But they're acquiring things, and just because we've only heard about this one tank and Oculus Rift doesn't mean that there's not a wealth of other underlying technologies that Facebook's acquiring that may have some sinister purpose. I don't know what it is.
No, in my opinion, if you think about this in terms of sci-fi, I think about the future of tech and video games. Always when I think about, I just think about sci-fi movies or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek kind of showed us where we were going to go, and then we went there. So in the future, Minority Report kind of style or whatever, and you pick your favorite sci-fi movie. VR, remember the PS9 commercials where you put the contact lens in?
Oh god.
Inhale the nanoprobes.
Yeah, as long as we're going that direction, it makes sense that way. You're like, okay, at some point, this is going to happen. So we might as well be one of the first people in there because that's a new destination is in there. But I don't think it's fucking here at all yet. Because in the 70s, Jaron Lanier in that book I was reading, You're Not a Gadget, great book, he was fucking around with virtual reality like a long time ago. And they were doing some cool ass stuff. And comparatively, the Oculus Rift isn't even close to what they were doing. I mean, it really isn't. It's essentially projecting stuff that feels pretty great inside there. But I mean, I think we got a long way to go. My point is, I feel like this is way too early for a media company like Facebook or social media company to get into this, because what are they going to do with it? What are you going to do with it now?
Rake in the profits, or at least a percentage.
To
of the
Justin's
profits.
point, it's just the money part or the money play.
Well, I mean,
for now.
yeah, I think so. I mean, unless they
Facebook is only going to stay a valid thing for so long.
Well, right.
Right, but is there going to be a Facebook inside this world? You're going to be a virtual Facebook, is what I'm asking.
That kind of leads me to something that
I think that this is a beyond Facebook scope. I think that you can't put all your money into Facebook because you know what happens to MySpace. You can't just say Facebook is going to be our go-to forever. So you have to start acquiring things that are going to outlast Facebook. And the visual interface of VR is something that's going to only expand.
Right.
So getting in at the ground floor gives you a better market share.
That's a good point. The other thing though is that, if they're acquiring this technology, then something else they can do. I mean, mind you, I don't know if this would become too popular, but there's Second Life, which is popular with some people, but I think with most it's just kind of like, all right, it's a big open sandbox, and there's like big porn districts. It's weird, but if they end up acquiring like Second Life or something similar to Second Life, and they have the Oculus, then it's kind of like you're selling like a package deal. It's like, oh, hey, get on like Face Life, I
know, but then where's the Facebook brand there? So I think the question is like what Alec was saying. There's two possibilities. Well, there's a lot of possibilities. Yeah. One of them is that, like you say, it's not the integration of it. It's just more like, hey, this is also something we do because it's something that's going to come into the future and you're all going to be using it. But I thought is, Mark Zuckerberg talked about the phones at some point. That has a shelf life maybe. Like we're all just using that and stuff. And he was talking about like, well, I realized that phones and tablets are only going to be for so long, and then there's wearable, there's all different types of stuff. So I feel like it's a different platform. But that being said, I feel like it has to be a play where they're going to integrate Facebook into this VR. So you're going to, like, say I put it on and I come and see Justin is in there. Mm-hmm. He's doing a Skype call or something, but that's like an avatar of Justin. And then how that's Facebook Ultra, or that's Facebook VR. And now I'm just sharing, like, I see my mom and she's walking around or whatever, like, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, here's kind of what I'm wondering, and mind you, it's like,
which is terrifying and fun sounding.
Well,
yeah, I know.
And mind you, it's it's definitely a different device in terms of like how you would interact with the world around you, but I kind of have to wonder, like, is this their either first step or answer to Google Glass and all that?
Mm.
Because the thing is with Google Glass is like, I mean, it's very different because like obviously you can't walk around in the world with like goggles over your eyes, but
you would die
very soon, and you would deserve it. So yeah, well, with Google Glass, I mean, obviously you can see what's going on around you, and you have this sort of like AR thing going on. But with social media, it's just kind of like it seems like it's an easier and more natural way to like capture stuff, and I could see that sort of bolstering Google's social media, and Facebook could find itself very quickly like left in the dust. So Facebook buys Oculus Rift, and they make a bunch of money for gaming platforms. But maybe the next step is, you make something like Google Glass, where it's like, yeah, you have AR, you have AR and VR in just one device.
Yeah, but then they still have to build that. Like, I mean, the Oculus took a while. It was an indie project. It still isn't the best to be the asshole of the podcast for a minute, it isn't the best like made device. It's something that works really well, but I mean, it's not like it has the ability to take, plug and play, take pieces out of it and make a VR, AR kind of combo. It's a solitary product. Like it's this thing that they spend a lot of time on and it works, but I don't think they can expand upon that. You know what I mean? So I don't know what they're buying besides buying that end product when they buy those guys who made it, unless they're all geniuses and I don't know. Like they're essentially hiring them to build some more stuff. But I don't know if that's the play. I will say this, though. It does damage the brand, in my opinion, of Oculus because games are what I thought of. I want to still think about games with Oculus Rift. I don't want to think about social media. And anybody, we all know about this. Like, it's been invading our game stuff all the time right now.
Yeah. But also think back to when you first heard about Google buying something, and you're like, why is a search engine buying anything? Why does it's a search engine.
Yeah.
I go there, I type in words, it gives me the internet. And now you go to Google if you want to record your voice, or you want to share a document with someone, or you want to plan your fucking vacation.
Yeah.
Google has
teleconference calls.
Yeah, Google has
file storage.
all of it now. And why would you go to a social media place when you want to play games? I don't know, but ask fucking Farmville.
Yeah,
why
I know,
would you go
don't
to a
remind
social
me.
media place if you want to interact with your friends? But there's IMs and Facebook chat, and all that is things that people are using.
That being
And
said, go ahead.
And so the niche community of video gamers who are really excited about the Oculus Rift, the number of people who have heard of the Oculus Rift has probably quadrupled in the last week. It's gone from niche video gamers who are excited about VR to my grandma's heard about it because it's on her fucking Facebook feed.
Yeah, but
so
it doesn't make it better.
it doesn't make it better.
And also,
yeah, but
No.
it's expanding visibility.
yeah. But also, the thing with Farmville is, obviously we saw that finally started tapering off. People were like, okay, we got it. Social, casual gaming's. Like, let's stop maybe that for a little while. So I feel like that argument part of it is a little bit tough to argue because people aren't playing those as much, I don't think. I mean, Zynga is having problems. They're just laying people off, and it's different over there now. So I don't know about the viability of social games on social media platforms. I'm not sure how that works, but it makes sense. Mm-hmm. All this still doesn't make me feel better.
No,
I just still feel like
it's-
some sort of wrong right in here.
Yeah.
And I'm pointing to my
Well, also,
stomach.
wasn't it? I mean, wasn't it also originally supposed to be like open source? And,
Yeah, there was a lot of things. It was
I think
original.
the guy who and I apologize for my lack of knowledge, but the guy who developed
No research, Justin. Go. Just kidding.
the guy who developed Minecraft apparently when he
Notch.
yes,
Yeah.
so when he heard that Facebook bought Oculus because he was developing like this VR Minecraft, he just stopped. He won't develop for them anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, he's saying Minecraft won't get released for the Oculus Rift.
Good thing we got a movie coming from it. You hear about
Minecraft
that?
movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lego movie will spawn
Oh, God.
so many other things.
But the good news is someone who worked on the Lego movie's working on it.
yeah, that's better.
So it's not right. All right, well, we don't know the answer to that question.
No, and there is a statement by the guy who made and sold the Oculus Rift that I have not read, but I've heard excerpts about how things are going to be staying the same. But everyone who sells their company says things are going to be staying the same. But that Oculus is going to stay a autonomous
Oh, yeah, of course.
function that is not wrapped into Facebook Incorporated, but is under the Facebook family of corporations.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it's just because I mean, you give someone $10.
Weirdly enough, that was a regular cough.
Give someone like $10.
Just
It's
cough
like
I cough like that.
that's autonomy. You give someone $2 billion, you're their bitch. I mean, like,
They're your bitch.
That's
Yeah.
that's the end of the podcast. They're your bitch.
yeah,
Oculus Rift,
you are Facebook's
Facebook is Book's bitch.
Actually,
Facebook
well,
is... Okay,
yeah.
what?
No, I was gonna say like if you want to say that, we could like quiet down for like edit point.
Oh, there's no
So,
edit
yeah.
points.
All right.
I don't think I'm editing any of
All
this.
right. Oculus Rift, Facebook's bitch. All right.
There's some awkward progresses.
There's some awkward stuff. We're the good podcast that has awkward moments. So you should tweet us because we have the Twitters if you want to talk video games or anything else. I'm Onawa, Onawa. Justin is
I am Axon Spark.
Spell that out.
Capital AXON, capital SPARK.
Capitals don't matter. Okay.
I say they do.
Okay. Type them out because they matter to Justin.
They do. He wants
Yeah.
them capitalized.
Akis, what are you?
Dude, I think I'm.
Wait, you don't know your Twitter?
I don't. I haven't.
You
I've
started
only ever
Twitter
had.
to start a Twitter war with James.
Yeah, I had a Twitter war with a friend, and then he got tired because I was winning and stopped doing it, and so I haven't. I believe that I am at TICUS
It's Atticus.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
just TICU. Okay, got it.
because my name is spelled
At.
with an H
That
at
is
the beginning. but
perfect.
It's ampersand TICUS.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the show notes. Also, we're going to be on iTunes, even from this first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So why don't you drop us a review and leave a comment? It could be any comment.
Give
You
us
could
as
say,
many stars as is possible.
yeah, give us the maximum amount of stars
All
or
stars.
the medium amount of stars. Just maybe not one. I don't know.
Or give us 1 star and then write just a glowing review. That
Right,
says
right.
how great we are.
Yeah.
Give us the
That'll just confuse everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. And the next episode, I don't know what's going to be yet, but it might be an interview. It might be all of us together. We'll see. Until then,
Episode.
we should say some sort of ending.
And it's witty.
It's overtime. It's
Overtime.
The time that it's over. You're not getting paid extra. It's just overtime.
Oh, we work?
What?
You brought it to work?
I
Overtime?
know, that's horrible.
But I mean, it's over.
I want an edit
It's
point.
a double
I
meaning.
know, edit point. Hey, let's do that at the ending. And edit,
Edit
point.
point.